Ahead of International Women's Day, I wanted to bring a guest onto the podcast who has inspired me greatly. Blackcurrant farmer Jo Hilditch has achieved so much in the world of food and farming. A woman in agriculture showing you can lead from the front, instigate change and say no to Deborah Meaden on Dragon's Den. Tune in as we talk about British cassis, business diversification and a few tasty recipes, including rhubarb gin. Hello, welcome to the Countryside Kitchen Meets, a food and farming podcast. I'm Millie Fife, your host. I'm a mum of two, farmer's wife, food producer, and passionate about flying the flag for British food and farming. Today we'll be chatting to Jo Hilditch, a fourth generation farmer from Herefordshire. Then I've got a few time-saving hacks when it comes to mealtime preparation and some recipes to share, meaning you can juggle family life with the children and cook a tasty, nutritious meal too. Okay, let's introduce you to my guest. Jo Hilditch is a fourth generation farmer managing the family farm in Herefordshire for the last 25 years. She supplies blackcurrants to Ribena, chickens to Advara in Hereford, cider apples to Heineken for Bulmers cider and to Aspel's, as well as a small arable farm which is farmed in conjunction with other local farms. Jo has developed a range of Victorian farm buildings into luxury holiday lets. She is committed to sustainability and biodiversity with a range of environmental schemes across the farm, as well as the solar energy production and large biomass heating projects. In addition, she uses some excess crop to develop her own brand of fruit liqueur. White Heron Drinks produces British cassis and British framboise, which by her own account is very tasty. I need to get some of that for sure and have a try. In fact, Jo appeared on Dragon's Den looking for investment in that brand. So I'm excited to find out how that came about and what the outcome was. Jo wears many hats, as you can tell by that introduction. So I'm so pleased to have her on the podcast today. Hello, Jo. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today.
Hello, Millie.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, how do you fit it all in? You are somebody that I admire. I know family life, juggling children, a business, a farm it's spinning the plates. But I'm sort of looking up to you and your career path and aspire to achieve even half of what you've achieved. So how do you do it?
Well, I don't know. I think perhaps I spread myself a bit thin, but you know how it is. Ask a busy woman, and we always find to do it. You know, there are two things: time and money. You never have quite enough of either of them. But if you give as much as you can in time, then I think you get as much as you do out. So yeah, I'm not sure I do anything brilliantly, but certainly it's been an interesting career path, and you're at the other end of it.
Exactly. So I'm, obviously my children are 3 and 5 and farmer's wife. So now sort of really starting to fly in my own business, having put the foundations down. See, this podcast is just one of the areas where I'm able to be really creative and try and connect consumers with farmers and food producers and talk a little bit around cooking as well, because I think it's hugely important and something that I would like to do more of. So
together. And coming from a PR and marketing background myself, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think that's part of the reason why I diversified into all the businesses that I did, because I could see the opportunities of marketing to the consumer directly, which as commodity producers, we don't often do, but we are good communicators.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, just the visual kind of element of marketing in food and farming businesses as well, and just explaining the whole supply chain. I mean, a little while ago, I went to British Sugar and I had a look around the British Sugar factory and looking at how things go from being in the field to being on a supermarket shelf. I mean, it's such a fascinating journey and something that it's I think people really buy into.
Yeah, and recognising that as a marketing tool is also brilliant. We've done some work. I chair the Blackcurrant Foundation, and we've done lots of work with, and actually I'm doing it with cassis as well, is making people see that it's not just about the bottle or the Ribena, but it's the whole journey, and that it did start on a bush, and there are seasons that go around that bush, and that it does take 3 years to grow the first viable crop, and it takes 10 years to get any payback. And it's a long-term process that all the consumer sees is this little bottle. And connecting those two things, as you say, I think is so important.
And also, I mean, there is a huge element of risk as well. You know, within it, there's so many different elements that get thrown at us, not only on a daily basis, but you know, when you're producing food, you've got the commodity price of the inputs, you've got the weather, you've got, you know, political issues. There's all sorts of things as well. And I think it's all very well saying, I'm just going to establish a crop of blackcurrants. So like you say, if it's a 10-year investment before you get any return, you know, are you bonkers?
Yeah. And you didn't mention we've just planted a vineyard as well. So that, you know, that's another whole scheme.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow. Oh, I've been meaning to try and organise to come and see you, Jo, because of, you know, just sort of exploring all the different elements of your business and what you do and what you're about. I mean, normally sort of, I suppose with this podcast, I probably put the cart before the horse, but I really would like to come and have a look round, because just to see for myself, because every time I explore that journey and understand exactly how you've established a crop and how you market it and what the price point is, and it just fascinates me. It's truly inspiring. So I look forward to that.
Well, definitely. I mean, I think the times that we're coming into right now, and I hope it won't be long term or even medium term, but the challenges, as you've mentioned, around the costs, the inputs, and the relatively low rate of return. I think that's always a challenge for farmers, and it's going to be more of a challenge now, because even with the products that you're managing to get in front of the consumer, you know, there's such a lot of clamoring for space, and you know, you need to charge a bit more.
Absolutely. You know, you only have to walk down sort of supermarket aisle and look at certain shelves, and you can see how busy it is, and you know, what's your unique selling point, what makes you stand out. But equally, I know from a retailer's point of view, it's kind of price point, isn't it, and how much someone is able to afford to pay for that. And I had a guest on my podcast not long ago, and he was saying that one of the trends in 2023 is going to be low energy cooking, because everyone exactly using a microwave, or you know, I mean for me, I'm all about scratch cooking and batch cooking, because that makes complete sense, but then again, that's not accessible to some other people, so it's finding a way, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, Jo, what is your backstory? How did you forge your career in food and farming?
Well, I never expected to come back to the farm. And as I said to you before, I was working in PR and marketing. And then I got married, and I was working in AstraZeneca in Cheshire, because my husband had a business up there. And then I had a real tragedy in the family, in that my brother was killed in a car accident. And there were three others of us, but none of the others were able to come back. And I was in a position where I could, but I didn't really have any idea about farming. But I think sometimes when you can see the wood from the trees, you come into something that you didn't really know about before. I mean, of course, I'd picked blackcurrants when I was young, and strawberries, and looked after the lambs when I was very little, but I didn't really know anything about it. But you can bring your business expertise to anything. You can bring your marketing background to anything. And if you've got half a brain in your head, then there's no reason why you can't do all of it. I mean, there are some things that I can't do and won't get asked to do again, like driving a tractor. And I have no idea about engines. But that's fine. I'm no good in the workshop or on the tractor, but you know, I have a brain that can see strategy and think how I can put things together, and I'm an entrepreneur. And my dad was an entrepreneur. So I guess when I came back, he encouraged me with my entrepreneurial spirit. I made a couple of mistakes, but in general, I just kind of pushed forward with all the exciting things I could see that I could do. And I think, you know, we're very lucky in farming. We do have a good asset. So I would do good risk analysis, and I would do good business modeling on anything that I developed. But of course, sometimes you are taking a bit of a risk, but you've got the collateral in the background whereby you can do more perhaps than other people might be able to do fresh in business.
Absolutely. And it sounds like your father was very much a role model in establishing that or that direction, but you were thrown in the deep end, but with very much a business head on you. And I see a lot of that myself in our business on the farm as well. I've sort of gone away and worked for various businesses and organizations, and now I can see what potential there is at home for development. We just have an element of succession planning issues and one thing and another, so I concentrate a lot of my time on my marketing business, but equally I want to be more getting my hands dirty, you know. So how did you get into blackcurrants? Is Herefordshire a good growing county for blackcurrants, or did you see an opportunity?
No, it definitely is a good place for growing blackcurrants. We've got very good soil, we've got good slopes, so you don't get frost pockets, and also my family had been, so of all the generations, I look back at old publicity material that they had, and they used to take produce to market in Birmingham and London, and it always included blackcurrants. So there must be a long history of it on the farm. But in the early 60s, kind of post-war, when they were looking to use blackcurrants as a vitamin C supplement and Ribena started, my dad was one of the very early proponents of the blackcurrant crop for Ribena. So I guess I've just developed that over the years. So I think when he died, or back in the day, actually, he did have quite a big acreage, but it had gone down and down. And then I regenerated that, and we're now at about 150 acres. We do about 400 tons a year. And we're good at it. You know, I've got excellent farm manager and people who work on the fruit, and we really understand it. We've been doing it for a long time now. We know how to get the best out of it. You know, similarly, Ribena are actually a very good customer. They look after us. They understand the cost of production, and we have sensible conversations every year about what it does cost and what the market is, where the market is at. So they buy 100% of their blackcurrants in the UK, which is really good.
Fantastic. Do they market the fact that they buy it all in this country then?
Not enough. And Ribena, if you're listening, not enough.
I was going to say, I wouldn't. And that's just for Ribena, or is that into own label blackcurrant?
No, that's
just for Ribena.
Yeah, just for Ribena. I mean, I do a bit of IQF, individually quick frozen, and then obviously my cassis, but Ribena is my main customer. They do go through phases. I mean, their marketing team seems to change all the time. And every marketing team that comes in, as you will understand, you have a different great idea. And they did use the very much as a USP, the fact that they were growing all British fruit, but it's slightly taken a bit of a back seat at the moment. But we do work with them as the Blackcurrant Foundation. We do a lot of work alongside their social media people so that we can reflect each other's stories. Oh, and I'm gonna have to find them on social media and follow them, because again, I can share some of the content, can't I, and direct people. I'll also put information on the show notes to everyone listening, so that if you want to find out more information, there'll be lots of different bits there that you can refer back to. But I mean, you obviously refer to Ribena as somebody you supply, but all the other products that you supply as well. And let's talk about the cassis diversification, because and also your appearance on Dragon's Den, because that's just tell me, how did that all come about? Well, cassis first of all came about in that one year we had about 100 tons surplus fruit. So in my naivety, I thought, we can do something with that. And of course, the first year we used about 0.5 ton for our own product. We use about 10 tons a year now. Which just puts the scale. I'm about a 3% producer for Ribena, and I produce 400 tons, and my little product uses about 10 tons. So it puts it all into perspective, really. But yeah, anyway, so I've been doing it for about 10 years, I suppose, and I wanted to do something that would really get me straight in front of the consumer. So it wasn't going through any other channel. And this was something that I could do. So I started by just going to local food markets and the Good Food Show and so on. And then I had a rebrand about 4 years ago, which was the point at which I went on Dragon's Den. And we'd been at one of said, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the Good Food Show. And we could see that the BBC were around, and you never know what they're doing. Their labels flick around. And this girl came up and gave somebody on my stand a card, and then about a week later they rang the office and said, do you want a bit of opportunity and promotion? And I said, put the phone down. To my secretary answered the phone, we're not interested in advertising. They said, no, we're Dragon's Den. And then you start feeling a little bit, they want me. So actually, within 10 days, I had met the producers, done a presentation, written a business plan, and was on Dragon's Den. So it was a bit of a roller coaster. And it wasn't me saying I want to be on it. It was them saying, will you come and be on it?
Oh, fantastic.
But it was really, I think I only did it because I wanted the publicity, not for me, but to sell the product. And indeed, when it went out, I suppose I must have sold about £40,000 worth of product in the week. But it was quite a thing. I did turn them all down. They all wanted too much of the business, and I didn't really want to give any of it away. But it was a very interesting process. It was good fun.
Oh, absolutely! It sounds absolutely fascinating, and I mean, watching Dragon's Den again, they always want to buy into something, but they always want a bigger bite of the cherry, don't they?
And also, they really want you to look like an idiot. And there were 3 others who were on the same one as I was, and 2 of them really did look like idiots. They didn't understand what margin was, turnover was, what their cost of goods was, and I know everything down to a T. I mean, there's no way you wouldn't if you're running a business.
Yeah, exactly. No, but good for you as well to turn it down. But the return that you got from doing that, and that's something that I'm sort of in my influencer type marketing. I'm looking to for more sort of TV opportunity. I was on BBC Bargain Hunt, believe it or not.
You were on Salvage Hunters.
Oh, were you? Oh, fantastic. So we won big on Bargain Hunt, my friend and I, and we got the golden gavel, so we won £290. Yeah, so we've been repeated quite a few times because I think we were actually one that was quite interesting to watch. And then a few years ago, I did a program called it was called Food Glorious Food, and it was like a cookery program where you had to prepare a dish and then present it to some judges, and it only made one series, so they obviously didn't get very good viewing figures, but they produced.
Have to go on to Bake Off or MasterChef or something.
Yeah, I know, yeah, but it's just I sort of find that when my sort of style of cooking is very much throw it all together. If you've got good ingredients, they will sing. But my presentation probably isn't MasterChef kind of real, it's all. Yeah, I'd like to do something like that, but yeah, if I could find something that was a bit more down to earth, maybe I'd throw my hat in the ring, but who knows? That's why that Food Glorious Food was it was presented by Carol Vorderman, actually, and Tom Parker Bowles was my judge, so I had to present, I did cheesy meatball pasta, and that was quite a popular dish, and I got a rosette, and went through to the next round. But I found out that then all the people that had the film crews round to their house prior to the production were already going through. So it just felt a little bit like it was already preempted. So the fact that I hadn't...
A lot of the time, I'm sure it is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I've been on quite a few. With my cassis, I've been on quite a few different programmes. Actually, the one I liked the most was the Hairy Bikers.
Oh, they're brilliant.
They voted me as one of their food heroes, and they came and spent a day on the farm, and they were just brilliant. Really, they were absolutely real. And some of the others that I've met, and I better not mention who they were online, I haven't liked quite so much.
It's interesting, isn't it, how TV persona and then in reality, it is that kind of what's on screen, and then in real life, I've heard the same.
The one I really want is Stanley Tucci. So Stanley Tucci, if you're listening, please come.
Fantastic. I hope he is.
Come to you and then to me. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So what has been your biggest challenge to date then, Jo?
I mean, I think there are lots of challenges. I think driving a tractor was obviously one of the challenges. I think the challenge right now is making a profit. I think that's incredibly challenging. I think planning for the next generation, as you've alluded to already, in a very changing environment of what the young want to do. Mine are a bit older than you; they're in their 20s, and it's everybody is forging their own path. They don't live at home. They haven't particularly had any. They've done the odd blackcurrant harvest, but for me now, at my ripe old age, which is not too old, but it's getting on a bit. I want to know what's going to happen next, and I think that is challenging. I really do think that's challenging, and and of course, I'm not going to mind if it's a girl or a boy. It would be nice to think that it would be taken over. But I think that, the biggest challenge of all for you and me is or has been definitely for me, probably less for you, is being a woman in a very male-orientated environment. And when I first got involved, I think it was probably about 5% of anybody in farming was female. I think it's more like 23 or 25% now. Nonetheless, I don't think it's particularly females in the kind of role that I'm in, which is the managing director, effectively. I think women in farming are still much more stereotyped as being the farmer's wife in the background, and albeit that they give so much to the farm, and they probably do as much as, or maybe more than sometimes, than the husband on the farm. And I that is a challenge, and I think it has been the biggest challenge throughout my whole career in farming.
No, I completely concur with you, Jo, because I mean, I've had various roles within the industry, and I feel like I've proved myself, if you know what I mean. But I now feel accepted, if you know what I mean, but because I've done X, Y, and Z, so I've earned my place. Whereas I don't know whether or not if I was born into farming as well, because I'm not from a farming background. So, but actually, I think that for me is an advantage, especially from a marketing perspective, because I ask the questions that perhaps Yeah, exactly. So it is fascinating. I think it's getting better. I think the sort of diversity within agriculture is getting a lot better and a lot more inclusive. But I think there's still a lot of work.
Listening to some of the young around Herefordshire, I think there definitely are more females who come to the forefront, but it's more likely to be in your kind of role, more in a kind of marketing role. And the boys are still the ones who are expected to be the ones who take over the farm and to be the son and heir, probably. I think that perception is changing, and I think women are much more we're all educated more as feminists, which is a really good thing. I mean, when I first got involved, it absolutely would be, I'd be at a farming conference and people would look over my shoulder and say, "Where's your husband?" Or say, "How many children do you have?" Because that was the only conversation that they could have with a woman. They wouldn't dream of talking about yields and inputs and returns and crop protection, which I probably know more about than they do. But I think now, certainly, I wouldn't have that around here. And people know me, and woe betide them if they ever. I've heard so many local negotiating groups on behalf of growers and blackcurrants and so on. First lady member of the Herefordshire Ag Club and the first chairman and so on. So I think in Herefordshire, I have finally found my place. But I still go to a new environment, and I still might have people say, "Where's your husband?" Which is weird.
No, I totally get that. I went to an event not long ago, and that's they're sort of all thinking, "Oh, did you come on your own?" Well, yes.
Brave of you.
Yes, my husband's actually at home putting the children to bed, so I can come out for the evening, and use my brain. So it is funny. It is funny, but I'm pleased with the way things are going, and I think this leadership course that I'm taking so much from is really helping to obviously showcase what can be done, or bring people along with me, if you know what I mean, so that I suppose it's not everyone's bringing people out of their comfort zone and not conforming to the norm is I suppose what I'm getting at is my life motto is dare to be different, and I've always lived by that, and that will be that sort of part of my North Star. Really is something that I'll always I don't do things normally. I don't want to say
so funny, but I think I told you before that dare to be different is one of my hashtags on my White Heron drinks.
Oh yeah,
So
you
I
did.
get it. I
Yeah.
really get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Oh no, that's fantastic. Well, let's talk about cooking and feeding the family then, Jo. Do you enjoy cooking? Have you got any go-to recipes or anything
Yeah,
that you
you've been we've been talking gender stereotyping, so I'm not sure you should really be asking this question. But I'll take it in the spirit that was
Yeah.
intended. So
Mm.
yeah, no, I love cooking.
Mm.
And actually, my husband is honestly the most useless cook ever. So if he had been feeding the family, then we'd have been starving. Um, Clearly, I like cooking anything with cassis in it. So
Yeah.
I think actually there are some great recipes that I do. One is duck with ginger and cassis, which is really delicious, and blackcurrants. Or a trifle with using cassis rather than sherry. But I never have time to go shopping really. You know, I just go to the shops and grab a few things, and then maybe I'll go on Saturday morning and fill up a trolley, and then I'll just have a load of stuff in the fridge, which by Thursday evening has all disappeared. So I think my best skill is just opening the fridge and making something delicious out of whatever's in there. Because as you were talking earlier, it's about how you put foods together. And I love ottolenghi, so I've got all those spices in the cupboard. So I just pull out whatever's in the fridge and I will turn it into something which I think is really delicious. But you know, I love the creativity of cooking. I'm not a baker, but I just love making really good savory dishes. I can get home at about 6 o'clock in the evening and throw a dinner party for 8 quite easily and not worry about it. And my mother is absolutely appalled. You know, she'll ask me 3 days before, so what are you going to give them for dinner on day? I'm like, God, I don't know. I won't until half an hour before. Because really, I think, for me, food is about sitting around a table and okay, you've got something delicious on the table and hopefully everyone enjoys it. But it's about good company and conversation and the bringing of people together over food, I think.
Yeah, and a nice tipple as well.
Yeah, and a nice tipple. I definitely, I would buy fresh local produce if I could. I would definitely buy British if I could. So in the supermarkets, it drives me mad that you just can't find the area, which is all the British stuff. So I won't buy beans from Kenya. I'll buy the cauliflower from Lincolnshire or whatever. And having that kind of some kind of provenance and sustainability about the food that I eat is really important.
Yeah.
But I am a supermarket shopper because I just don't have time to go down the high street every week.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I have my shopping delivered every week, all my staple ingredients. But then because we sell our beef and lamb to our local butcher who's got 3 shops, I'll then go and we've got pigs in our freezer anyway, but then I'll stock up on some decent meat as well. Or if I'm out and about, I will bob into somewhere, but I literally, it's almost like a treat when I actually go into a physical shop because I just don't have the time. It's and I think I enjoy going to like the butchers and looking at the counter and things like that. But
the weekend I can do that. And does your husband ever do any cooking?
No, not at all. Is
that a male stereotype thing, do you think?
It's because he's never had to. I think he's been brought up very much mothered and and now because I enjoy it. I mean, he can just about, he'll do cheese on toast or he'll boil up a bit of pasta or what have you. He can do the basics, but actually it's painful watching him. And I just quickly knock something to, the kids are absolutely beside themselves. They need feeding. I can't wait half an hour for him to peel a few spuds when I just sort of chop them up, sling them in. I don't, I'm not really worried about all that. Yeah, exactly. So so I don't mind it, but every now and again it would be nice to have someone cook for me. And so when we do go out and have a meal, we often go to places where there is good food provenance, because if you pay for someone else to cook you a nice meal, you want to be able to enjoy it and think, oh, I didn't mind paying X amount because it was good. And so I didn't have to cook it. Whereas I know I've got a lot of friends that just go out because they can't be bothered and then they'll pay whatever. And it's just a kind of a means to an end. So I quite like, finding a really good traditional pub and having traditional food, which is tasty, and we know where the meats come from, or at least where there's been a bit more effort.
Do you get your kids cooking as well?
So the sort of premise of this podcast, and before that the food blog, was founded during the pandemic, and I grow a lot of vegetables in the garden. Obviously we produce a lot of the meat from the farm, so I've got them involved with the growing and the garden, planting seeds, and they know everything. They know that carrots come out of the ground and we have to wash them under the garden tap, and they, and all of that. And then I've now got them like little sets of knives that they can use. So they enjoy the chopping. Trouble is, my two are at quite a close age and they're quite competitive, being boys. So it's actually more enjoyable when I've just got one of them that I can focus on. Whereas if I'm getting both of them to do it, although I can have 2 bowls or 2 chopping boards, there's an element of competition, so it can be a little bit of a challenge, let's say, but anyway, it is nice to get them involved with cooking, and then they're now starting to sort of be a little bit more adventurous in their tastes and what they enjoy, although the youngest could just eat a bottle of mayonnaise a week at the moment. It's absolutely disgusting. It's just it's horrible, but anyway. How can people find more out about you, Jo, and your business?
About my business, we've got a website for the farm, which is wittenfarms.co.uk. About the holiday lets, it's whiteheronproperties.com, and about the cassis, and to buy cassis, it's whiteherondrinks.co.uk.
Brilliant. And in terms of the cassis, can people, is that available online to buy, or do you stock any shops and things as well?
No, it's available to buy online, but you can get down to Waitrose, selected Waitrose. I think we're in about 3/4 of the Waitroses. Fortnum and Mason with their own brand, and then we're all over the place in independent delis, and we're also available in kind of some cocktail bars and so on. You go
nice. And you're on social media as well, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, at White Heron Drinks.
And your personal, I think it's your Instagram account, you've got a very snazzy picture of you on an aeroplane, because in International Women's Day last year, you did something rather mad.
Yeah, totally mad. I absolutely hate heights. I'm terrified. And I was High Sheriff last year of Herefordshire, and I just decided that I would do something that was really mad and was really going to challenge me, and I wasn't really going to be happy about doing. And it was International Women's Day, and I thought it was a great one to do the crossed arms on top of the plane, break the bias, and I did it.
Amazing.
It was pretty scary, but that's all. That's all on my Jo Hilditch. It's on my Jo Hilditch Instagram, that one. You can watch it.
Oh my word. And so did you do that to raise money for charity, or was that as well as obviously challenging yourself?
No, I think I raised nearly 40 grand for local charities that I'd got involved with during my year as High Sheriff.
Oh, fantastic.
All Herefordshire charities, yeah. So I was really pleased to be able to give that away.
Oh my word. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. I did a skydive in Wellies about, that was about 15 years ago now. So that was when I was first involved with RABI, the farming charity, and I jumped out of a plane for Welly Week.
Well, I was deciding between a free fall and a wing walk, and I just thought maybe the wing walk was slightly more photogenic, because you could get it up online and people would actually be able to see it, whereas a free fall you can't really see it, can you?
No. I think you can now pay for the man that you're strapped to have a head cam, or you have a body cam or what have you, but it is it's not until the parachute comes up and you're just lolloping about. It's
Anyway, I think I preferred wing walking to doing a free fall, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go and do it again with another chap who did it in aid of one of the charities I'm a trustee of, and we've decided we're going to do it in tandem, and we're going to do a loop the loop.
Oh my, bonkers!
I'll come back to you with money then.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh well, you'll have to let me know when you're going to do that, and I'll share it and make sure that people know about it. Sounds amazing. Wow. Okay, Here are some time-saving hacks for you to try at home. Since finding out about my gluten intolerance, it has reintroduced me into preparing a few cupboard staples from scratch. I often have to be in the mood for doing this or schedule some time in, but it does save time in the long run. Shop-bought gluten-free pastry is like cardboard. Although I've been a fan of shop-bought pastry, the ready roll varieties, for a long time, there's no shame in buying a roll of puff or short crust. And often I'll knock out some jam tarts or a homemade pizza using them for the kids. So now making pastry from scratch has become more of a staple in my house, as you can freeze it and use it when you need it. And if you do have a gluten intolerance or any other food related intolerances, or it is a minefield, but actually by just investing a little bit of time into these sorts of things in the long run, I guess it is a time-saving hack for me. So my recipe for gluten-free rough puff pastry is as follows: 295 grams of gluten-free plain flour, 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum, 1 egg white, 225 grams of salted butter, got to be salted butter, tastes amazing, 130 milliliters of ice cold water. Now you place the flour, xanthan gum and salt into a bowl and mix. Chop up the cold salted butter into 1 centimetre chunks and place in the flour mixture. Break down the butter into the flour mixture, but avoid the temptation to rub the mixture into breadcrumb-like state. Basically, smush the butter around with the flour. Mix the egg whites and ice cold water together. Add a third of the mixture and slowly bring the contents together. As the mixture combines, start to add a little liquid at a time until the mixture forms a dough-like ball. It shouldn't be too sticky. And then place the pastry onto a flour board and roll until it is 1 centimetre thick. Fold the pastry like it's an envelope back on itself and form a rectangle block. Now wrap in cling film and place in the fridge for about 15 minutes. Then after that time, bring the pastry out of the fridge and roll out until the pastry is 1 centimetre thick. Fold back on itself like an envelope again and form another rectangle. And repeat this step 2 or 3 times because it really does help them to strengthen the pastry because you haven't got the gluten inside the pastry. Freeze it until you need it and then defrost. Using the real butter rather than margarine or any false alternative, especially the salted variety, makes it super tasty and worth the effort, believe me. And I recently did a cookery competition where I made my gluten-free pastry into sausage rolls, and I was the only one that bothered to make my pastry, and everyone was absolutely raving. In season right now, let's talk about rhubarb. I've been successfully growing rhubarb from seed in my garden the last couple of years and started to build up my rhubarb repertoire. I've got a nice recipe for rhubarb chutney on my food blog page, and I want to talk to you about rhubarb gin. It's so simple to make. I'm sure Jo's probably nodding her head here because she's probably dabbled in making her own spirits as well. So chop rhubarb stalks into 3 centimetre pieces. You'll need around 3 or 4 decent stalks, 500 grams of caster sugar, 1 litre bottle of cheap gin. Nothing fancy, as you'll be changing the flavour. So I use Aldi's own brand. Other brands are available, I should say, but it's cheap and easy. And as you're going to be changing the flavour, it doesn't really matter. Mix the sugar and rhubarb together and leave overnight in a sealed jar to allow the sugar to draw out of the juice. The next day, add the gin and seal in an airtight vessel. Shake daily to ensure the sugar dissolves. After 4 weeks, your rhubarb gin should be ready. Strain through a muslin cloth and enjoy your drink with some tonic water. I think at the end of the day, when I put the kids to bed, that's exactly my go-to drink. How does that sound, Jo? Have you ever tried growing rhubarb?
It sounds really delicious, and I've never tried a rhubarb gin. So yeah, I look forward to tasting that. You have to bring some over when you come.
I will, absolutely. I've done last year, I did raspberry gin. That was pretty easy because it's so juicy. So rhubarb's a bit more of a challenge, but I'm just building up my repertoire at the moment with various recipes, and that is a favourite, I'm sure. So thank you for coming on today, Jo. It's been wonderful chatting to you.
No problem, and good luck to you with your career in front of you.
Oh, thank you very much. And That's all we've got time for today. Don't forget to tune into the next episode of the Countryside Kitchen Meets on the 1st of each month. You can subscribe on all major podcast streaming platforms and get in touch. Would you like to be on a future episode? Want to chat to me about what you do and share some recipes too? Drop me a line at hello@millie5.com. And you can also follow my food blog, No Fuss Meals for Busy Parents, on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.nofussmealsforbusyparents.com. So top tips, time-saving hacks, and recipe ideas. Thank you so much, Jo. I've very much enjoyed listening to your journey, all the different areas in which your business has developed, and also your year as High Sheriff as well. It's just absolutely fascinating, and I appreciate your support and guidance, and I know that I'm going to really enjoy coming to see you soon.
See you soon then.
All right, take care. See you next time. Bye.